Have you ever wondered why some people are buried facing the earth? Let me tell you a story that explains it. But before you hear this story, understand one thing. In some places, burial is not about honoring the dead. It is about protecting the living. There are deaths that pass quietly, prayers said, tears shed, earth closed, and life continues. And then there are deaths that make elders hesitate. Deaths that force decisions no one wants to explain. In those moments, bodies are turned, faces pressed into the soil, and questions buried deeper than the dead themselves. People will call it tradition. Some will dismiss it as superstition and insist it means nothing at all. But if you ever see a burial done in silence, or you ever notice a grave made too shallow, then you're already closer to the truth than you should be. Before we go any further, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It helps keep stories like this alive. And if you stay with me, I'll take you deep into the story, where silence speaks louder than words, and not every grave is meant for rest. In my village, Ukolo, a small community in the heart of eastern Nigeria, there is a rule no one ever writes down, yet everyone understands it. When someone dies, you don't look at the body first. You watch the body language of the elders. If they move quickly and tears are allowed to flow without restraint, then the dead is harmless. But if the elders lower their voices or hesitate or even study the body for too long, then you already know the truth. That person will not face the sky in his grave, because not every soul should be allowed to look upward. Some are turned face down, their eyes pressed into the soil, their ears sealed in silence, and their mouths filled with earth, not as punishment, but to keep them contained. When I was a child, I once asked my grandfather why some people were buried with face downwards. He was sharpening his cutlass under the tree. He smiled and said, "Some spirits are stubborn. They can listen their way out of the underworld and won't be able to find rest if buried facing the sky." I laughed and continued playing without regards to the words Grandpa spoke. I stopped laughing the year Okoro the listener died. Okoro lived at the edge of the village where footpaths are rarely seen, and the air felt older and heavier. His compound was always orderly and silent, with bare walls, no charms of any sort, no skulls, and no strange markings. Just a silence that felt intentional. He was not a wicked man. Okoro greeted everyone generously. He helped widows fetch water from the stream. He fixed broken stools without asking for payment. He was an embodiment of kindness and niceness. But Okoro had a gift no one prayed for. He could hear things that others could not. He heard secrets carried by the wind and saw things that did not belong to the visible world. At night, when dogs suddenly whimpered and crawled on the benches, Okoro would tilt his head and say, "Behold the great spirits without shadows, they are passing." When the wind bent the palm trees too sharply, he would mutter, "The spirits are playing." When sickness came without warning, Okoro would visit, stand by the doorway and say quietly, "This is no ordinary sickness. There is more to this than meets the eyes." And when death was close, Okoro always knew before the body did. People believed him. But belief is not the same as comfort, so they began to avoid him. Gradually, invitations stopped coming. Conversations shortened and greetings ended quickly. Fear doesn't always confront you. Sometimes it simply gives you space. The first time Okoro truly frightened me, I was 12. A young woman had gone into labor and died before morning. Her family was wailing, tearing wrappers, and calling her name into the sky. Okoro stood outside the compound and said calmly, "She left yesterday night." Someone shouted at him, "She was alive this morning." Okoro shook his head and said, "The body stayed. She did not." By evening, the woman was buried. After that, nobody doubted Okoro, but they stopped wanting him nearby. 3 weeks before Okoro died, he began to change. He slept during the day and worked at night. He stopped greeting people first. When spoken to, he would pause for a while before answering, like someone listening to another conversation at the same time. Once my grandfather greeted him. Okoro leaned closer and whispered, "Please, say my name again." That night, my grandfather locked our door early and suspicions built up massively in me. The next day, everything broke open. The sun had just set. Children were still playing, women were serving food, and the village was very much alive. Suddenly, Okoro ran onto the main path, sweating, breathing hard, his eyes wide open and terrified. "They are calling me back," he shouted. "They said I have stayed too long." Okoro grabbed Elder Okafor's arm and whispered with tears now flowing freely from his eyes, "Tell them I tried. Tell them I listened enough." The elder asked quietly, "Who is calling you?" Okoro turned slowly toward the forest and ran out looking depressed and restless. That night, nobody slept well. By morning, Okoro was dead. No wound, no blood, no prior sickness. They found him sitting against the wall of his room, his body cold and his head tilted, as though he was still listening when he passed. The elders met before sunrise. Neither children nor women were allowed in the meeting. But bad news traveled faster than light. By morning, everyone knew Okoro would be buried facing the earth. Some people protested quietly. "He was such a good man." One elder answered, "Yes, that is why we must be careful." They did not wash Okoro's body the usual way. They did not dress him in white. A small stone was placed inside his mouth. "So he doesn't speak," another elder said. His thumbs were tied together with red thread. "So he doesn't point." The grave was very shallow. When they lowered him into the ground, the air felt wrong, and there was an uneasy stillness in the atmosphere. Then they turned him over, face to earth. A chill ran through me, and deep inside, I found myself wishing Okoro's body had been treated with more care. That night, the ground behind Okoro's house would not stay still. It rose and fell gently, like the earth was breathing. People gathered at a distance, and no one dared to come close. Then the scratching began violently, as if something underground was trying to turn around and face the sky. My grandfather pulled me inside and locked the door. The scratching slowed down at midnight till it finally stopped. By morning, the village was unnervingly quiet. No body had risen. No footprints were seen on the floor. Not even the usual crows from cocks were heard. But Okoro's grave had changed. The grave had shifted and turned, now facing the forest, as if whatever laid beneath had finally found the direction it wanted. I asked my grandfather the question that burned inside me. What would have happened if they buried him facing the sky? He looked at me for a long time and said he would have listened his way back, and those who hear too much never return alone. Today, Okoro's house is gone. The bush has swallowed it. No one farms on that land. And even now, when someone dies and the elders whisper too long, you will see them turn the body face to earth so that the dead cannot see or hear their way back. Truly, some graves are not meant for rest. They are meant for containment.